It's 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in for Cannabis Legalization News. Today we are joined by Abraham Villegas from the medical cannabis community. But first, we do have to get into a little bit of cannabis legalization news. So, Miggy and Tom, what's up with the news this week?
We made it to Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Halfway there.
Yeah. We found out this past week that you can get the coronavirus and get rid of the coronavirus in a matter of days, provided that you have governmental health care.
But is it a matter of days when a week seems like a month in Trump years?
I have no idea. I'm just worried that we're sucked into this vortex of madness and crazy crap. And then, fortunately, we've made it to another Wednesday, so we could talk about cannabis legalization news, which is very often good. But sometimes the algorithm gods strike you down, and then you're like, well, what did we even do? Oh, right. We were advocating for legislative and policy change against crimes. It'd be one thing if our news was, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had this law instead of that law, which is essentially all it is. But because the current incantation is, well, it's completely illegal. It's like, trafficking in heroin at the federal level. How many people are employed by cannabis now, Miggy?
Dude, I don't know, but it's created quite the infrastructure of jobs and auxiliary and people who touch the actual flower. But I mean, to your point, though, we are victims of YouTube.
Hundreds of thousands of legitimate tax-paying Americans, non-exportable jobs, because like the cannabis plant doesn't scale. It's not like row cropping. It's more like strawberries. In the sense that, hopefully it's a little bit more diverse than strawberries too. So it'd be even more of a horticultural product than that, but hundreds of thousands. So any actual news come by your desk?
Oh, there's lots of stuff, brother. Because just like hemp, I was telling you earlier, it's just like Trump news. You get flooded with so much.
Yeah, he has corona.
No, he doesn't.
He is going to the hospital. He's taking a tour in a car. He doesn't have corona. It's like, wait a minute, what is this crap?
But hey, so congrats to your people in Peoria.
Yeah, East Peoria, second recreational dispensary location opens. This is a new med, which I believe is branded itself now as New Era. However, this is just the current law playing out for the early adopters. So that's one of the reasons why people like to get their medical license in a state when they go medical first, because they will be grandfathered very oftentimes into a state, unlike in Washington State, where they just basically murdered all the medical people, right?
Oh, dude, it was horrible.
Yeah, Michigan's got it right, where they can kind of have like these medical grows going on with the adult use grows. And I just heard there was something out of Michigan. This is some big news. Where
right.
They're going to be, not the theft, man. I thought they were going to really open up the licenses and say that there's going to be a lot more licenses coming because they're going to have this smaller license type. But I just saw the headline and I didn't read it.
Michigan opens the access to recreational market, like Pennsylvania's law.
Like Pennsylvania's law. So go over, what's the summary of that headline? Michigan to open to access the recreational to help curb black market sales. How do you go after the black market?
You open it. You open the market to growers for testing, right? Early next year, Michigan will eliminate the barrier. This is going to be exciting stuff. It's almost time.
Micro growers coming. And then it's just, you need some regulation, but how much? So I'm going to get one of my staff attorneys on that. Get me the...
Well, I think that the regulation there itself is going to be the licensing as always, and then the testing. Lab regulation is plant regulation. Once you require that, that person, the personal home grower is going to have to okay, I just sold you 20 pounds or whatever. It's going to be a seed to, they probably have a license, a small craft license, but I don't think they're going to have to be accountable. That you're definitely going to have to check that one out.
Well, yeah, and so I will. But then the thing is, it just came across, and I'm like, well, that's awesome. Hopefully one day that's going to be something that will happen in Illinois, where it's just such a closed market, and that's just not very American. Somebody should be able to have access to it, because if you don't open the market like that, you just keep the black market there. Especially like if you don't open the market and the tax rate is higher than bananas, you're just asking the black market to stay there.
Well, when you brought up
I shouldn't call it the black market. Legacy, traditional,
legacy market, yeah,
yeah.
And just like to the article that the first one I brought up, that was it's two men are arrested in their home for marijuana in Pennsylvania, the state that would be the model state. But look at these two guys. I'm just guessing why they were fucked with. I'm just asking for a friend. I'm just saying these two Americans who are 21 and 19 are
Well,
just.
how do they look? Because remember, this is a podcast as well, so you always have to describe what you're reviewing on the screen.
I'm sorry, the two young black men right there, and then look at this crime, all this marijuana.
Oh my gosh, they've really stopped it. They've really stopped crime over in which city is this?
That was in Pennsylvania. No, Sharon, Pennsylvania.
Well, let's get some reports from Brookings, South Dakota. Brookings, South Dakota has a speak out section. So somebody wrote a letter to the editor that says marijuana should not be legal. And it starts with marijuana is a dirty drug. Nothing says fair and unbiased, like just admitting it right out the tight, like, here's my premise. This is a dirty drug. It's harmful.
Well, to me, dirty has a racial innuendo to it too. I mean, come on, like how often? Of course, heroin's bad.
Well, drug, and then again, it's just the political aspect of it, the prejudicial aspect. So somebody writes a letter to the editor in Brookings, South Dakota. So like that's a no vote in South Dakota this fall. But it doesn't mean that like that's the prevailing view. It's just out there.
But was it signed by Kevin Sabat?
No, it was signed by a Bernie Hendricks. No idea who that is.
But well, we stated before, like prohibition has set, like American prohibition has set the precedent in the world, and I'd like the Navajo Nation changed its definition of marijuana. So for years, and this could affect their ongoing hemp coming up, because they're saying anything off of the cannabis plant is marijuana. Period. And they're trying to treat it like it's still a bad thing, which I don't know if you're familiar with reservation life.
In the Indian areas?
Yeah, on the res in the Navajo Nation. So, the nations, they're self-governed. And I've always wondered, because some are different, some are more liberal, I guess, like states, right? More open-minded. But I always wonder, why do the Native Americans always wait for permission from the American side?
Oh, because they're worried for their lives, or they don't care. But there is some good news, like, as opposed to the weird, crazy stuff that happened last week that you can get the coronavirus and not, and all sorts of other stuff. But there's no increase in road deaths or crashes. Who's reporting on this? Dope Magazine reports that there's no increase in road deaths or crashes after legalization. And this is relative to the New Zealand prepares to legalize cannabis. They're worried about it, but they've done now it's starting to become, what do they call that? Meta-analyses. Epidemiological, like where they have studies. So they're looking at various states after they legalize it, and it shows that usually nothing wrong with the road injuries. They've been going down decade over decade because of more safety features.
But where are we at? 9 recreational states? 31?
No, we're at 11.
11.
We're at 11 recreational states. I mean, like, one of the things is, though, we should just frickin' count Oklahoma.
Yeah,
we should count them, because of think how open the Oklahoma market is. No medical conditions,
and no planes falling from the sky, no massive car accidents.
Is Oklahoma still out there? I think they are.
Did it burn down?
Right. Well, there are many small fires raging in Oklahoma, but they're under control. They're under control. Yeah.
Hey, did you see the one about the marijuana use increases pain after surgery, requires more anesthesia?
No.
I'm not sure how much reliance I put in this one. This was shared by also Lester Griefspoon's son. Mm-hmm. I follow him on Twitter. And, the point he made here is the conversation with the doctors needs to always be open, so you can let your anesthesiologist know, hey, I'm a cannabis consumer, and we don't really have any real facts on this shit. Doctors will cite so much bullshit as far as like, I can't do this with you because you like organ transplants. There's a lot of people deny organ transplants, but there's no science saying that your body's gonna reject it because you're a cannabis consumer. Freaking retarded. It's
the prejudice of the plant. The prejudice. It's a real prejudice against the plant. It's not fake. And then like we have. This is the marijuana moment reporting. A congresswoman said she'd break federal law to get medical marijuana if her daughter needed it. Now, of course, the funny thing about that is, of course, she would break federal law if her daughter needed it, because all federal law says that it is not medicine. And so, you can only break the federal law. But, it's just so sad that at that time, we have to say we disagree with this federal regulation that we have, and we aren't going to vote on it.
But how hypocrisy, the largest of it, with like the president who gets this special treatment that only 3 people have been getting treated for, right? And then whereas cannabis, a plant that's being used by thousands of people as medicine,
brand new novel medical crap, and then a shitload of steroids, and then 2,000-year-old plant, botanical stuff, hasn't hurt anybody. Keep arresting people for it. Don't change the law. Don't even vote on this. Why has it been this way for the past 50 years after the Schaefer report came out? What's holding them up?
Well, the federal government not letting me have a holistic approach to my own health is pretty messed up right there, period.
But I don't like how the federal government says that, like, my job is illegal. That is bullshit. I am trying to follow all these laws and change that one.
Yeah, no, and then again, what is it? Governing morality.
Right. The LaGuardia governing morality. That's a good one. But the real cool thing is that more and more people are saying, and of course this is a Democrat from Virginia, so like it's basically saying that she supports the state's idea of medical cannabis. And so if you want to access medical cannabis, like over 80% of the population does, there's no such thing as medical cannabis under the federal law. Not sure why.
And again, back to the mindset of most people where, and we've talked about before how cannabis legalization seems to always be the juvenile thing for most whatever. Like this is not important. This is not a thing that's going to be, it would change our freaking country. But, even law enforcement, proper law enforcement who care about real crimes are even less concerned. Did you see the one with Dave Chappelle and his psychedelic parties? And I'm pretty sure cannabis use is there. Not a concern. Why? Because these are grown adults taking care of themselves and not causing harm. Freaking insane.
I don't know, man. It's something else. It's another week and trying to not be a criminal news.
Well, within that criminality, with the MORE Act not happening, and again, the Safe
MORE Act, the Safe Banking Act would have been nice. Just been like, all right, well, we're going to slow walk this one and keep it still federally illegal, but you can now bank.
And because of that, right now we have a string of robberies with gunpoint in Washington happening with all these dispensaries, pot shops. These guys
got the cash and they got the weed.
That's it. I mean, if they were allowed to use credit cards, they wouldn't be a victim, would they? Or at least a target.
They would still try to rob you. That's the thing. Like, I say it's a lot harder to make off with, $10,000 worth of alcohol than it is $10,000 worth of weed. You can hold like 5 pounds of like high quality weed, and that's thousands of dollars worth. And so because the weight and the value per pound is so high, you'd still have the vaults. You'd still have security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they would at least have better protections, I would think.
Right.
At least when you don't have cash on premises. But, that's a continuing issue with both the medical and recreational side of cannabis, period.
Yeah. Cannabis is a fun thing. And you know what? We should talk more about it, especially the medical side. Let's bring on our guest.
Yeah.
Hey, Abraham, how you doing?
What's going on, guys? I'm doing well today. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the medical cannabis community?
Sure. We are doing a lot these days. Our medical cannabis community, which focuses on developing hyper-targeted online communities, multimedia content, and facilitating market research, is growing faster these days. We are located in Illinois, Maryland, New York, and Pennsylvania. And our focus in this last quarter has been covering a lot of content on social equity in Illinois, as well as minority empowerment, and then also on the site of cultivation that many people are curious about, as you know, because of the high prices, the low selection of products, and people's general interest in being able to cultivate and create their own medicines.
Cool. Holy crap. Miggy, I think you might be on mute.
Oh, you was. Yeah, I was gonna say you guys are more than just a Facebook group, though, right? I mean, because you have a huge one, 3,000 people or so.
Correct. So, well, we started as a Facebook group about 5 years ago. At some point in time during our journey, we had pivoted to become an advocacy organization. And then very quickly, we realized that our efforts were limited unless we figured out a way to become self-sustainable. And so, for the last period of about 2 years now, we focused our organization on becoming a media company. And so now, rather than just a Facebook group, we have an entire platform on our website that allows people to be able to connect with each other, find doctors, dispensaries, directories, and other businesses through the directory that we offer, such as accounting, legal, tech, and other ancillary businesses that are now a part of the industry. So where we originally started with trying to connect patients with doctors and dispensaries, today we're kind of working to connect everybody in the cannabis industry who has come to our groups, whether they're looking for that medical access or they're looking to get into the industry from a professional standpoint, an investment opportunity, and everything in between.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of the most interesting aspects of the plant, in my opinion, is that it has this dual kind of, it's not a dual mandate, but it's got these very two prominent features of, it really is about the patients, but then it really is about this industry that people actually want to get into and make a lot of money from. Now, it's cool because then at its roots, at its core, like when it started, it was really about the usage of the plant and the benefits that are inside the plant, which contradicts at a very fundamental level the federal law. So I guess the third point of it would be like the interesting legal aspect of it. But because every state changes and then they allow the medicine and then it's very regulated and then it becomes very taxed, then it becomes a cash cow. All the people then want to get in because they just see this green rush, they call it, you know? Man. So that's pretty cool that you guys have been working so hard and you're doing more collaborative materials now over at your site. What's the name of your site?
The site, the URL is a long one. It is called themedicalcannabiscommunity.org. But if you go to thecannabiscommunity.org, it should still direct you over to our website. And that's actually a peek into one of the changes that we're looking at potentially making, both from trying to make our website and platform more searchable, as well as to us being able to cater to all of the different interests and sub-communities that exist within our platform of people who are now not only interested in just the medicinal aspects of cannabis, but also in the economical and the financial aspects of it, as well as, you know, construction and crafts and projects and everything in between. And so now we're at a point where we're not only catering to just the medical side, but the general interest of the entire community.
It's crazy the opportunity this plant offers. We just spoke to Steve D'Angelo, and he was talking about how he started ArcView Group, and he's been hands in a bunch of other groups. And I mean, it seems like that's just California. I mean, you guys are in Chicago, and you said are you multi-state or multi-city?
Multi-state. So we started in Illinois, and then a couple years after, we ended up expanding into Maryland when we realized that what we were doing was essentially creating a model and a system for harnessing attention, informing people, and then driving them over to our website where they can learn more. And so once we were able to get Maryland done and we started growing a sizable audience there, we ended up working with a couple other organizations to expand our footprint into Pennsylvania and New York, since there was interest at the time to raise awareness, bring people together, get them active in the advocacy and legislation process, and then start connecting those people to the resources that they needed to obtain that legal access.
Does your Maryland model also cover DC?
To some extent, interestingly, it does, simply because within Maryland, as you know, there's that whole DMV area within Virginia. And because there's a lot of crossover of people coming back and forth between Maryland and DC, we do have a good amount of crossover between that Maryland, Virginia, and DC area.
And DC is it's a grow and give jurisdiction, which is kind of interesting. You know, it's not bad to live in DC, it sounds like. Because then you don't have to buy weed.
Just stickers.
Or you just grow it.
Oh yeah. There's that.
Yeah, the Virginia and Maryland area, that's going to be pretty dynamic. And I think Virginia does have medical, but there you have some movement and their normal group is really, really active. So I think Virginia is going to have something coming on the horizon here in next year.
Definitely. They have a pretty big hemp industry as well, Virginia, doesn't it? Or is that North Carolinas?
No, it's Virginia, but then like all of tobacco country has a fairly large hemp organization. But then it's like how easy is it to get the license to cultivate that product in a particular jurisdiction is something. Like in Illinois, it's just, hello, I'd like a hemp license. Here. Okay, they'll get your license in the mail. It's very, very open. But then if you want a cannabis license, it's ridiculous. It's very, very difficult and complex and closed. And so the idea of bringing together the whole community it's a pretty good idea there, Abraham. I like that because then you realize how many people that are involved in the supply chain for cannabis, and so you can figure out who you actually need on your team, and then who during your operations you can turn to when you have various issues. I mean, it's like owning a farm factory, usually indoors.
Yeah. I just blanked out, dude.
Yeah, that's all right. It's a Wednesday, 4:20 somewhere, right? But
brother,
on you, dude.
Yeah, I think it's because he's forcing the kids.
Multitasking,
this guy.
Well, we talk amongst ourselves.
But hey, so Michael asked about our YouTube channel, dude.
All right, yeah.
We haven't explained to anybody.
YouTube channel. We are on break. We are on what they call, when you go and you get in trouble with your parents, grounded. And so we got grounded on YouTube for a week, and then YouTube should unground us in a day. And so that's one of the things that we could talk to Abraham about, because they've built a community online, which is difficult to do for anything, specifically when it is federally illegal to try to build that community, even though it is domestically lawful. And how has been operating a cannabis community online been going, and what are some of the challenges that you've had?
It's terrible, and there's challenges at every single corner, man. We've been at this for the better half of 5 years now, which is far much more time than I ever thought that I would be investing into growing and nurturing and developing online communities. But since the very start, it's been a pretty difficult journey just because of all of the challenges that you previously described. And then you also talked about getting banned on the YouTube platform, which is something that we're familiar with as well. We've experienced that on virtually every single platform that we've had. But the truth of the matter is that our mission is far more important than our struggles, and it's part of what has kept us going to not only recover, but come back and figure out ways in which we can prevent those things from happening again. And so we have tried to figure out ways in which we take the rules of what they tell us that we can't do, and we simply try and work around them like you do in the legal field to find out what it is that you can do. And in that scenario, it's required a lot of creativity where, wherever Facebook and Instagram draw the line, then we make sure that our strategy falls right at that line where we're still able to obtain the goals that we're trying to achieve in terms of raising awareness and getting people to engage and interact, but not in a way that gives them the excuse to ban our groups and communities. And now what that kind of boils down to is any indication of our platform being used to aid and abet in the sales or transaction or promotion of any cannabis related product or service, then that ends up being against many platform rules. And so like on Facebook for dispensaries and cultivators, we don't calls to action to buy. We don't include pictures or prices or links to menu or anything that could even be confused with us trying to support a sale. And even then, there's still a struggle with that because as you can imagine, the rules and the guidelines change so frequently that you have to have the full resources in order to be able to keep up with those changing regulations. And so just last month, one of our main groups and communities, which you guys are members of, our flagship group for Illinois, received what Facebook calls a violation. And in short, what ended up taking place was that us, for simply approving a post to take place in our group, and the post had some context along the lines of a patient excitedly sharing the deals that they had obtained at the dispensary on their latest visit. It wasn't even a call to action. It wasn't her trying to find deals. It was simply her sharing the excitement of the deals that she had already found at the dispensary. And apparently, Facebook had an issue with that, and they took it down. And now, here's where the frustration comes in with a lot of this process, is that I didn't find out about that post getting flagged until about a month later, when my team told me, like, hey, you should check out the group. It looks like it has a violation. And then when I go and check it out, it doesn't actually allow.
Yeah, so I think he's connecting to his Wi-Fi now or something.
Yeah,
but it's the exact same thing that happened to all of our stuff, and so we might have to bring him back on just because he's coming back. But yeah, we had very similar stuff with ours, and that's what we're going through right now on YouTube. So we had to switch out, and like our last one was really, really like we're doing like a post-mortem on it, and I'm like, I don't know what we did wrong, other than we're talking about how you can get a cannabis license through the legitimate means at a state level. And because of that, and there's no exception, there's no gray area when it comes to the federal level, they're like, well, I'm sorry, that's a federal crime. I'm like, yeah, but it shouldn't be. Like 80% of people think that it shouldn't be. They want medical cannabis. So that means they want this law changed. And then yet Congress does nothing.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it too is guilt by association, because we were also punished for links off website. We don't even offer products or anything. Right. And the same thing happened to the front of the pod. Luke, he got banned for his website. Same thing happened to friends of mine who respect my region, who are just like a hip hop group or hip hop magazine, whatever. Their Instagram got shut down because of an off link to an Instagram or to their website that has cannabis reviews and whatnot. Not pricing, maybe some ads that are sponsored and actually paid, but it's legal here. It shouldn't be an issue. But it's guilt by association. I know Tom thinks there might be some greater purpose to this, but I just think it's just because we talk about weed.
Yeah,
we can do anything.
No, it really might be. But then you see some other channels getting away with, or at least doing a lot more. So I just think that there's some algorithms that are out there that are like, all right, well, tamp down that. It's going too far too fast. Because think about it. We were on track for an actual vote in the Congress to decriminalize. And I like calling it decriminalization because legalization, ooh, scary. Decriminalization, oh, that's nothing. Yeah, but they don't realize that if we just take it out of the schedule, we can call it decriminalization and it can have the legal effect of being legalized. It's like gaming good, gambling bad, all those types of the terms that you have to use, euphemisms to kind of spin your message. Because some people just hear things and they have prejudice that they're already built in,
Well, like drugs. You hear the word drugs, and what do you think?
Right. What did that man at the Brookings Register in Brookings, South Dakota write to his paper? Marijuana is a dirty drug, period. That's how he thinks. That's truth to him,
Apparently the caffeine in this is a good drug. I don't know.
It's a hypocrisy. There's so much hypocrisy. But, Abraham, what has been some of the more interesting evolution or like interesting lessons that you've learned along the way over the 5 years of the medical cannabis, or which is now becoming the cannabis community?
The most important lesson is start a website sooner and drive the traffic there.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
We naturally, I wouldn't call it a mistake because I think that there's a lot of value in the way that we did some things. But it's always good to prepare in advance now, knowing what we're up against. If we had to restart it, there would certainly be a couple of things that we would do differently. Having that website is obviously the pertinent one because we built a massive audience on social media. And while the interaction was fantastic, and the growth was fast because we didn't initially sell anything. When we lost one of our Maryland groups, for example, we lost about 7,000 members in an instance, and it cost us a lot of time and money to develop and nurture those groups, and to lose it from one day to the other. You could imagine as if our entire business in Maryland had shut down, because all of our contacts, our businesses, people that we were working with, clients and relationships that we had established were useless if we didn't have a platform to offer in the state of Maryland. And so when that got taken down, we started focusing on the website, and by some miracle.
You heard of the redundancy, right? And so like that's what we built in over at cannabisindustrylawyer.com. You can't shut us down over there, you know. And so that's one of the nice things. That's why I learned SEO, is because like, hey, all right, you just got unplugged from 7,000 people in your network. Well, the Google search algorithm's not unplugging that. And so if you would have made the content relevant to the information that community wanted and placed it and published it through the internet's provided that you have a host and you understand how like HTML works, that stuff's there and it's waiting for them. So I was using my YouTube channel as like a little icing on the cake for the SEO. That's why I got into it, because I'm like, oh, this rewards your channel or your website. What a deal. And oh my gosh, YouTube is essentially a search engine. Oh, neat. And so knowing that, because I know that, you know, over 50% of our traffic is from people internet searching. And so like, if that's how people are finding our channel, it's a resource. It's helping these people understand legal issues that are relevant to their state lives. And it's about how you follow the law in this crazy time. And then hopefully they don't unplug you, but like they can just unplug you.
100%. So always build your own platform and use social media for what it's meant to be used for. And that's really just a vehicle to get people from the social platforms over to your website, where you can more effectively communicate with them.
Nice. Do you guys have a forum or anything on that website?
The forum does not exist on the website yet. Separate to the public groups that we have on Facebook, this year we launched a private subscription-based membership community in which we have a forum connected through our Discord channel. It's still small and growing, but it's starting to transition a lot of our power members and supporters who now want inside access or behind the scenes experience into the projects that we're working on, who can help us financially support and move that content forward, so that we're creating information that is relevant to their interests and what they're voting us to create.
Nice, dude. No, I think it's fine that you have people that have, you know, you got to have some sort of barrier, because sometimes it's the internet, and, you know, just like our president has shown us, when you let anybody vote, shit happens. So if
no, that was when they picked the voters. The Russians were very clear. Right. But then I really like how that they can impact and like the granularity of the data in the 2020 is so great. So like where you have the ability to manipulate and influencing people, like the normal people, the ones that you can manipulate and influence more easily than ever before. And so you can do it from the other side of the world, which is terribly scary. But at the same time, you can beat the coronavirus in like a week.
Hey, you know who wants to keep fucking marijuana illegal? China.
Why?
Russia. I'm just saying, like, if you think about
totalitarian states, Ed Rosenthal told us that totalitarians hate cannabis because it makes you have more freedom of thought. And so if you have freedom of thought, that's terrible for the tough men mentality of just doing what you're told or else.
Or if you give Americans a chance with like a seed and to grow and know a plant, you know, for both its wellness and the textile properties and everything else this thing can do. You know, we don't grow cotton, you know, but we know it helps us. We know it's a great plant. And cannabis can do the same thing 10 times. Crazy.
Cool. So what types of things do you have on the horizon, Abraham? What are you building for Q4 2020?
For Q4 2020, I think like every other company in the space in cannabis and outside of cannabis is just trying to survive the pandemic. So us existing and us not going anywhere this quarter is a win in itself. So within that context, we're really just reinforcing our foundation. We are optimizing our systems and processes, and we're starting to cross-train our team so that they too can pick up on a lot of the duties and responsibilities that for a long time it was really me kind of carrying them on my back. And so now that we've got, I think now 20 people involved as part of the medical cannabis community,
Nice.
it's giving us a lot more human resources to be able to tackle a lot of the areas that previously we were kind of juggling between one or two people. So we're hoping that brings us the momentum that we're looking forward to start creating more hyper-targeted content for the states that we're in, as well as building up our email user base, and then continuing to add more assets to our website, such as our e-commerce store. If you check that out, every single month we come out with new community-inspired
e-commerce store, and like because the same problem. Like now, if you add that, is Facebook going to be like yank? Because now you're literally profiting on cannabis. It's the information and the education, but you're making a sale. And so like I have e-commerce stores plugged into my cannabisindustrylawyer.com for courses that I'll rank for. And I'm like in the process of making those now. And I'm like, crap. As soon as I start selling that, is all hell going to break loose? If it's one thing, if I sell like legal theory offsite, you know, but if I actually have, you know, but then some places are doing it like out West. And so like, you know, Medicine Man Technologies, I don't think they do on site, but I know that Green Rush Consulting does on site. So like a lot of the consulting companies, and I'm assuming that's what you're going to start selling is like e-courses, things like that, right?
We have e-courses, we've got digital products, we got branded merchandise, apparel, and accessories. And we can virtually sell any stuff that we create, and at some point open up our platform as a marketplace for other people to sell their products, as long as obviously it's not CBD or cannabis, which is not something that we're getting into. We're in the focus of tapping into the attention around cannabis rather than cannabis itself. And that is a system and a model that we could take across any other industry or niche where interest exists.
I don't know. Like the interest exists in this industry, and then the sophistication and the compliance, and so the complexity that's there, and the greed that's there is it's just there's not very many industries like cannabis that I can think of off the top of my head. It's like the internet from 30 years ago, and so like we can't do these types of courses and stuff about how to make a cranberry bog. That'll be $10,000. I'll get you your cranberry bog permit. Fuck that.
You know, it's sad though. At the same time that we're being demonized and demonetized and shut off or whatever, the industry has been proven essential. All right. And Abraham, did you see an increase in traffic as soon as this pandemic and COVID hit? Everybody staying home. Because you know, I'm going to say it, and hopefully we don't get. Well, no, we're not on YouTube, so it don't matter. But you know,
we're uploading. Hang on a second. Let's just make sure that we do something real quick so that if we need to, it'll be easier to cut this in post. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Hemp.
As we found out throughout many reporting, there was an article in Forbes, there was an article in every legit freaking paper out there that cannabis can help with COVID. It cannot.
Yes, it's antiviral properties.
Yeah. So Abraham, I'm just saying for the medical benefits and the recession proofness. I mean, man, everybody's got to be spiking as far as inquiries go. Did you see a good doubling of your traffic there, Abraham?
We've been seeing an increase in traffic for a while since legalization came into the picture in Illinois, as I'm sure you would imagine. More people naturally have questions around cannabis. And I think that the more confusing the state makes it, the more complex that these programs are, the more people have questions, and they're going to go searching for them online. And so we have had the benefit of essentially having a community where these conversations can take place 24/7. And now that the pandemic hit and it forced people inside, it forced them online even further. And so our groups certainly experienced a significant spike in traffic as well as engagement. And that has been beneficial for us because it's allowing us to acquire the rankings that we've been trying to establish in order to start expanding our footprint across other emerging markets where we know people have questions and they're even further years behind than where we feel like we're at in Illinois.
Right on.
Yeah. Texas, 1974.
I was going to say 1930.
In Texas. But then in Oklahoma, it's like, in Illinois, 2025. It's weird. And so, like, not every state is in the same time when it comes to the cannabis laws. Federally, 1937. No fucking reason why.
No reason why.
Abraham, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can we go to find and follow what you guys got going on at the medical cannabis community?
Thank you guys for having me. You can find out more information at themedicalcannabiscommunity.org or try thecannabiscommunity.org for short. We have a newsletter section up there where you guys can subscribe to get all of our updates in your inbox conveniently. And then we have our social media on Facebook where we invite you to join our groups and communities so that you could tap into the pulse of the conversations that are taking place in cannabis.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all cannabis legalization news. We'll see you on Sunday.
Thank you guys for having me.